All right, Chelsea fans, welcome back to another episode of the London is Blue podcast. As always, your host, Brandon, join my host, Nick. No Dan, still on that vacay, but we have Naz. That's right, Nisar Kinsella. Welcome back to the pod, dear friend. We are excited to have you save us from our misery, right?
Well, I don't know. It's a bit of a big burden for me, a lot of pressure, but I'll do my best, guys.
He immediately punted it, Nick. What a smart man. He knows that he's not stepping in that bear trap.
Nope. It's a big old bear trap too, isn't it? Oh, man. Not great. I think, look, before we dive into all the nonsense, we want to start off by, I think, remembering the life of Christian Tiote, who unfortunately was reported late Friday night, my time, and I think early in the day on Saturday, your time, Naz, that he had lost his life during the tragic earthquakes of the Turkey, kind of northern Syria region that has affected almost 40,000 lives in that space of time over the last couple of weeks. Chelsea obviously did a pre-match little moment to commemorate his life. He played for the club in preseason. Essentially, it was never officially in a competitive match, but you actually had a chance to talk to him and get to know him a little bit during that summer. Can you tell us a little bit about Christian Tiote?
Yeah, he was obviously a winger. Chelsea signed him up. He came over to Europe from quite a poor background, played for Porto. He lived in poverty in Ghana, and then he sort of reinvested a lot of his money down there. I think Michael Essien was one of the guys who actually helped sort of bring him on his path through English football as well. As a Chelsea legend, and he ended up at Newcastle. By the time he was at Newcastle, getting in the first team, he was doing a lot of charity work, giving back. So I think that all the people I met that, when I spoke to, and also when I spoke to him, I just thought he was a brilliant person, always had a smile on his face, good character, good guy, and really, tried to give back. One of those guys who realised his privilege. I mean, he lost his dad when he was young to botched operations and things like that. So he kind of knew that, what poverty was, and tried to give back. And, he changed hundreds, if not thousands of lives. That's what the charity Arms Around the Child said. So, when I found out, it was quite a painful one for the people who knew him, because it was, we were kind of told by the club that he plays for now in Turkey that he was alive. They thought he was alive. They thought they found him in hospital, and turned out it wasn't him. So you kind of had this is he alive or isn't he kind of thing. And then, as time goes on, in these situations, like an earthquake, you kind of worry for anyone not found like a week in or something like that. So I think that it was you just wanted to find out for good. And unfortunately he had died. And it's really upsetting because, I spoke to him once. I can't profess to be a friend of his, but I know people who are friends of him. And I sent my condolences to a few of those people. And actually, when I was walking to the game at Stamford Bridge, I interviewed him in a cafe around the corner from the stadium. And I don't usually take that route to the ground, but I actually walked past the cafe on the way, and I wasn't planning to, but I just thought, just reminded me of him. And he's only been lost at 31 years old. It's no age, is it? But and there's many other people who've died in this tragedy. So it kind of just brings home, when you know someone or have met someone who died, then it's really sad. And condolences with his friends and family. And it's horrible and puts a lot of the football stuff in perspective. But we still love the game, and he loved the game. So I guess we'll carry on with the pod and talk about other things as well.
I saw this photo yesterday, Brandon, because he was at Newcastle for a while. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, went on loan to Newcastle from Chelsea for a bit and when they were in the championship. And it was him and Cheik Tiote were friends, and they were in the same photo, and both of them were gone before they reached their 32nd birthday. I mean, I vividly remember both of those players, and how they played. I think a lot of a lot of doom mourning on the Newcastle side as well, of cross football, obviously. But, obviously for those who got to see him play week in and week out, that's a really hard loss.
Yeah. Well, I mean, without a doubt. And again, it brings the human side to it again. There's natural disaster, so it's, kind of decision taken out of people's hands, which is, I think, the hardest part of it all. But, thankfully he was able to, do preseason with Chelsea. He's able to have a career, and hopefully it sounds like he was able to, really maximize his time that he did have here. And in that point, you're so grateful with the positive impact. He went from poverty to professional athlete to giving back. You hear so many footballers are able to do that. And I think that's the best part about it. But it's worth acknowledging the heads up with Christian Atsu, especially because we have a lot of new fans to Chelsea. But then, also again, just the Turkey and Syria, just destruction continues to be horrific numbers. So a lot of prayers go over to them as they try to figure out kind of their new version of life. So with that being said, obviously we will talk about the Southampton match review. It was no good, very bad day out against the Saints at home at Stamford Bridge. We'll talk about what this means for everyone at the club, owners, manager, players, try to figure out what, if anything, can be our path forward. And then an update on Aspie. Obviously, he had the scary injury yesterday. It sounds like he's in a much better place, but Naz, being the proper journalist he is, has some updates for us, which is great. So as always, we like to kind of get a temp check of everybody out there, see how they're doing post-match with our 3-word match review. Again, no Dan. So Nick, the job is over to you. You curated quite well today. You had a very big variety of different things.
We keep setting records for reactions to these. I think this was near 800 on Twitter, and the Discord group was was also firing on all cylinders. I'll say that tongue in cheek. So I'll start with some of the Discords and then move into Twitter. Gabriel decided to go with 4 in a row here, just kind of rapid fire, but I said sacrifice a goat. I think hopefully in the efforts to turn around the vibes, appease the gods, our labored attack, hire a midwife. There's a lot going on here with Gabriel, but I thought, I'll end on a good one, which is something we all share, and that's get well, Aspie. I think that was incredibly scary yesterday to see someone take a shot like that. So we all share that 3-word match review. Ben Stanzel with a Power Rangers gif. We haven't had one of these in quite some time, with the make it stop gif, which is fantastic. Shane with players need support. Thomas Bates with why not ? Us, a patented Nick Verlaney phrase, which I appreciate someone diving deep in the archives. Nicholas Gomez with no project progress. Accurate. Jeremy taking our chaos and trophies and turning it on its head with chaos and controversy. DJ Fantasy with the loud boos. There were many of them. Tana overall with 2 and 15, and Clayton Bierman at goalie 59, friend of the show with players don't believe. A lot of tough stuff in there. A lot of tough stuff. It's not good.
Look, Clayton's been around the block. Obviously, really good friend. He has turned, I think, a couple weeks ago saying, I don't see the evidence to support where this project is going. I put rock bottom bounce with exclamation marks because, hey, once you hit that ground, you got to turn around and go back up. So that's as positive as I can get. I don't know about you, Nick.
Wow. Okay.
I'm trying.
Playing off of Southampton with it's going south. We're not in a good spot right now. So
not even the Mason anti-Southampton agenda from his time at Portsmouth could save us, Naz.
Nope.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I went allergic to scoring, but there was some good ones out there. My God.
What is the last goal you remember seeing?
I know the last goal I saw, but it just feels like, I don't remember them. I don't remember, even when they score, I don't remember them. It just feels like a fake goal in a way. It just feels like. I just don't expect goals. I mean, it feels like the World Cup final goals were probably the last ones.
I mean, you got West Ham, but then you don't have anything till Crystal Palace.
Yeah.
The loss against Fulham with the red card. I mean, guys, those are January. Like, we're a month ago at this point.
It's incredibly bad. Yeah.
Oh man. Okay. Well, again, but before we get into it, just quick shout outs. No new people on Patreon, but obviously if you're looking for a Chelsea community now more than ever, check out our Discord, an amazing support group in there through Patreon. A few bucks a month will get you access. And then no new updates on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. But again, just a shout out. It helps us get seen and grow. So we appreciate the support. Anyways, match time. It was Southampton this past 18th of February in the Premier League at Stamford Bridge. And in case you somehow missed it, Chelsea 0, Southampton 1. Goal as predictably as it could have been. The second he went down, James Ward-Prowse standing over the ball at the top left side of the box, about 19 and a half, 20 yards out, exactly where he practices it. And it was right before halftime. So we're going to kick it over to the Fifth Stand app. In case you haven't downloaded the only official Chelsea FC app in the world, go do it. We appreciate them letting us use the audio from the games. Here we go. All right. Well, with that being said, aka not a lot, Nick, we have a lineup to go through. Seems like the back four is here to stay for a while, at least.
Yeah, sure. I mean, who knows? But yeah, Chelsea obviously sending out a quite different lineup than they did midweek at Dortmund. Kepa between the sticks, as we all expect. Aspi coming in for Reece James, Koulibaly staying in for Thiago Silva, who's played a lot of football in the post-World Cup period. Badiashile coming back in. Chilwell, again, second straight start at left back. Cucurella not even in the squad, so that kind of necessitated itself. A midfield two that we haven't seen yet, which is Kovacic and Enzo Fernandez. Spoiler alert, that didn't work. And then a front four of Madueke on the right, Felix as a 10-ish, Mason Mount on the left-ish, and David Datro Fofana starting up top in place of Kai Havertz. And the bench, obviously there was a lot of subs. We had one extra one due to the concussion sub for Aspi, so that's why we had 6 instead of 5 for those who are asking. Bettinelli, of course, did not make it on. Zakaria did not make it on, and Lewis Hall didn't make it on, but everybody else did. Trev Chalobah, Mudryk, Sterling, Conor Gallagher, Kai Havertz, and Wesley Fofana all make appearances in just an insane match day that didn't yield one single goal. So thoughts and feelings on the lineup there, Naz. Hit us.
I thought, well, let's mention something. The team news got leaked as usual quite early, but this time it was very early, like the day before. So you kind of knew there was going to be serious squad rotation. So I think that did help Southampton just to telegraph things, and to know Reece James isn't playing, I think that's a huge help to any team. I would have thought Reece James would have played, and then they've kind of opted to rest him. It kind of makes sense, managing minutes. Did the same with Thiago, same with Cucurella, Ziyech as well. He puts in a lot of intensity into his matches. So, they've pulled those guys out. We knew pretty much all of them were out. We knew Aubameyang wasn't going to make the squad. So you can kind of piece together what the lineup will be. The way Chelsea play at the moment is kind of all through João Felix. It's just all down the centre, all this kind of stuff. And you could kind of see when Azpilicueta's on the flank and not Reece James, then it takes away a bit of threat, to be honest, on the right side. So Southampton could focus on stopping the attacks from the middle, maybe slightly from the left as well. And they did that. They knew what to do. They had the game plan sorted, and Chelsea started the match really poor, didn't they? They were on the back foot. Graham Potter called it a subpar display, which is probably as harsh a language as you get from Graham Potter after a poor performance, which is part of probably a bigger subject we're going to go into in a bit. So first half was poor. Kovacic, you mentioned, with Enzo in midfield, sometimes looked okay, but giving away the free kick for the goal from Kova was a terrible mistake, like giving away a penalty almost, isn't it? Because this free kick taker is the best in the world except Messi, and they showed the stats on Match of the Day yesterday that he's the best, and he's going to break David Beckham's record very, very soon, probably this season, for most free kicks scored in the Premier League. So it's a basic thing, that's something you talk about in tactics. Yes, you've got to make tackles, but you couldn't really pick to, if he gave him the ball and said, take a free kick, that's where he put it. So he does that, he scores. And yeah, Chelsea are up against it from there on in, and the mood dips, booed off at half time. Goals are hard to come by. But the biggest thing for me with the lineup was, I think if there was any risks taken, that was a terrible decision, because yes, Southampton are bottom of the league, but they know they're fighting for their lives. So if Reece James could have played 45 minutes, then start him. I'm a fan of some of the new signings. I like them, but Datro Fofana, for me, and I know I tweeted about this and loads of people were angry at me, and I feel sometimes like I'm seeing something completely different than Chelsea fans, because I know they really enjoyed the transfer window, but David Datro Fofana isn't ready to be starting big games for Chelsea, in my opinion, like this. So, I mean, it's got to be Havertz or Aubameyang, and I know Havertz is playing badly, but it's got to be one of the experienced guys for a team that's in crisis. Don't put a 20-year-old in who's just come out of the Norwegian League. And I have a lot of respect for the Norwegian League. I know he plays for Ivory Coast, played 2 games for his country, but he's not ready for this level. Chelsea is about as hard as it gets right now, so don't put in a 20-year-old. It's not optimal. Like, if you have to do it because you've got an injury crisis, fair enough, but don't throw him in. So that I was a bit concerned seeing that. I was saying it to people before the game. I don't think many people agreed in my opinion on social media, but I was worried about it, and I wasn't surprised seeing him come off at half-time. I predicted the substitution. I thought it might be Mudryk, but it turned out to be Sterling. But, and now he's going off like feeling like he's failed, and that's not fair. That's not fair for a youngster going forward. So that was a concern. It was going to be interesting. I thought Koulibaly and Badiashile could do a good job together at centre-back. They didn't. And that was a struggle to see as well. Could they have put Thiago through 45 minutes just to help the team? I mean,
that's probably the one, Naz, where I'm like, you got to rest that dude. He's too valuable long term to get anything else. But the younger guys, yeah. I mean, it's the knife edge balance of like, well, if they get hurt,
yeah,
right, and you've overplayed them, then you're looked at as a manager like you didn't, manage their well-being enough, and it's just like
I get that, and Datro Fan did some good stuff deeper in the pitch, but it's more towards the goal that's a problem. He's not impacting the game, doesn't look like scoring. His XG is really low. Chelsea, maybe the system doesn't work if the forwards aren't in the right position, so all that kind of stuff. And then Mount left wing, that's not his position. That's my last point. And I know he's been playing poorly even when in his best position, but play him in one of his worst positions or something like that, where he's a proper winger. The way the left wingers play at the moment are wingers. So he's not a winger. He's a midfielder, and he's going to struggle, and he did.
Yeah, understandable. I'm going to circle back to a couple things, but just to round out this preview section. Chelsea fought back to 61% possession. We had 17 shots, only 5 on target. Saints had 8 shots, 5 on target. We had 7 blocked shots as well. We had 8 corners. We had 2 big chances. They had 1 big chance. We both missed all of our chances. We had 86% pass accuracy, which again is strong, but what is the end result with that? We were 2 of 20 for crossing, by the way, which is 10%. To be fair, they were 3 of 8, but just the fact that we whipped in 20 crosses and only connected on 2 is pretty bad. And then I guess just from there, XG, right, about 1.5 for us, depending on where you're looking, 0.8 for Saints. That's kind of the nut on that one, which is not ideal, really. I would say we had 16 fouls to their 25. I think they had 10 within the first 35 minutes, which can be a talking point. They ended up with 6 yellow cards, 3, but it definitely played into them.
And I would say too, like this tactical matchup, this was like Southampton going Old English 4-4-2. Right up you right now. It's like they pressured. They were annoying as hell. They tactically fouled Chilwell immediately in this match because I think they realized that, he's kind of the danger man if Aspie's playing right back. I think you and I exchanged some sort of tweet yesterday around the fouls or Felix's touches, something like that. But it was just pretty obvious what they came out to do. Like they had a style. They had a a personality that they came into Stamford Bridge with. And it was like, a battering ram versus Chelsea trying to be cute and tricky and play around. And it just didn't, the styles didn't mash up for the second time this season, as you would have noted. But the one random stat, which I will read off here, is that they've done the double over Chelsea for the first time since 87-88.
Double.
A 17-year-old Alan Shearer making his professional debut on the day that they completed that. So, not good, man. Not good.
All right. Well, look, we've already kind of broken through half of the first part, which is good. So I'm going to take a pause here, hit our ad break when we get back. More just about the game before we kind of look ahead to the future. So again, thank you to the sponsors, and we'll be right back. One thing I did want to pull right back to you, Naz, because we're never going to get this except with you. How does it get leaked 24 hours before? That is a competitive disadvantage. That is a problem. One thing that I'm going to tie it back to is it sounds like when Boley and Badad were learning about transfers, a lot of things are getting leaked to the press, and I think they were getting played a little bit. It seems like January transfer window went so much better. How are lineups like this getting leaked so far in advance from such a top club? Is it Potter not having control of his front, of the team? Is it more on the club administrative side, or is it hard to know? Worst case scenario, it's a player leaking it through an agent, right?
It's hard to know exactly, but if it leaks so early, the only people that know will be the people in the squad, and then maybe their closest friends and family, and maybe a few agents in the game. So those are the kind of people that it will be coming from. It could be coming from players, exactly. I mean, most journalists don't leak the team. It's seen as a trade secret, unless there's a major story like, say a player had a falling out with the manager and it's a big story, he's not going to play, he's been dropped, then that's, elite team, fine. That, I'd feel the same way about it. But I'm not just going to say, Reece James isn't playing, because I don't think it's fair on Chelsea. It's a sport, there's a, competition going on and all this kind of stuff. I don't even try to find out the team really in the first place, because I don't feel it's right. But
and what else would you write right before the match? I mean, you need that. You need that content.
Exactly. I'm happy to wait for the match. That's no problem. With it, I think it's just that, it's good social media currency, isn't it? You can get a lot of retweets and clicks and grow accounts and stuff like that. So that's why people do it. And people are interested, to be fair. But so it means Chelsea are really vulnerable right now. They need to get on top of it. I don't think it's a good thing, really, for Chelsea. It's up to Chelsea to sort it out themselves. Some clubs don't have as many leaks as others, and Chelsea seems to be possibly the worst around right now. I think Man United have a little bit of a problem with it as well, but Chelsea's is particularly bad. So it's something to get on top of, I think. Just remind people of their, you're hurting the club if these things come out. So I think that, people just put it out if they're not playing or whatever. You can get a response from people these days on social media. You can message anyone. Some accounts are doing a great job of getting the team news out and growing their accounts. But from a Chelsea perspective, I would say it's not ideal, and I'm sure Graham Potter would agree.
I guess a question I have for you is, with that being that far in advance, right? Like Southampton and no. Reece James probably not. None of this is certain, by the way. Graham could have easily just went and started Reece, and then said, "Well, fuck this. We're teaching the league or something here," but he didn't. Obviously, is this sinister? Are there sinister motives attached with leaks, or is it just simply a clout chasing thing in your mind?
Yeah, I don't think it's sinister. It's clout chasing. It's clout chasing at all costs, of course, but. But I think that's the way we've gone, really, with social media now. It's just, how can I get clicks? How can I be as relevant as possible? And sometimes, people maybe will go and do something that's not ideal. So I think that's sort of the situation there. Maybe I feel like players don't realise, maybe the damage they're doing sometimes as well. So I know the England national team have had a problem with it, and it kind of stopped actually at the World Cup. So I found that quite a welcome development.
Okay. Well, appreciate that. Glad to hear it's probably not sinister, but again, it's just another thing of like, holy shit, like we can't catch a break with anything in this moment. So back to the lineup, like you said, Mount is back in. Chilwell, I was a little bit worried after he wasn't fit enough to play 90 minutes, but he played 84 minutes today. He's in a fragile state for us. The Badiashile Koulibaly thing didn't work. Kovacic, credit to him. He played a lot more vertical passes than I've ever seen. So that was a positive. But as far as like the midfield collaboration, he's just coming back, like some of his first competitive minutes, and it didn't go well. To your point, Naz, you just said a lot of changes. David going in up top. Felix was absent. Madueke was fine at times. Like Matt Law has said, he gets a bit predictable. So I'm interested to hear what you think of Madueke. And then I kind of have like a point to make once we kind of like touch on some of the specifics between you and Nick as well, just to kind of see what you guys think of my analysis and kind of the different challenges between clubs like Chelsea and Southampton.
I mean, overall though, right? Like I didn't really know where to go with this script to be fair, guys. Like it was just bad. It was just really bad. It was poor performance from minute one all the way through. Some energy in the second half, but it felt like chaotic energy. It didn't feel like focused energy. It felt like we were just kind of throwing the kitchen sink at a problem to see if something worked. And, to be fair, it almost did. But compare that performance, Naz, to the Dortmund performance midweek. Rest in peace to your laptop, obviously. And this is like night and day. I mean, Chelsea played fluid attacking football against Dortmund. Had control of that game for large chunks of it, had no control against Southampton, let themselves be bullied. And I think the energy in the stadium reflected what a lot of people were watching, what I was watching at home.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think that's the main thing people can't accept. Not only have you lost to bottom of the league, Southampton, but it follows like a performance that had a bit of hope, but you still didn't win. You lost in Champions League. And then you go into another match against a team you just have to beat. Both teams are in crisis, but Southampton's players are just not good. They're just youngsters, a lot of them, or they're just not good enough for the Premier League, championship level players. It's no surprise they're in a relegation battle for me. I actually predicted them to go down before the season even started. And I think a lot of Chelsea fans would have felt the same. So you'd expect to go in there, maybe not dominate, maybe not have it all your own way, but at least win at the end of the day. And it just feels like, it's one step forward, two steps back every time now with Chelsea. Like they win a game like Palace, then there's a run of 3 draws. Teams like Fulham are starting to get away from you in the table, out of the cups. Champions League isn't looking good. So it's just like bleak. But a lot of it comes down to who are you going to blame? Like, do you blame the signings? Most people don't. Do you blame the players? The players were applauded off the pitch, but the one person booed off the pitch is a manager, and you're like trying to unpick who's at fault here, who's the most to blame, what's going on. And it's, but I think like underneath it all, I think a lot of people had hope that the other thing about this game was people had hope that when the injured players came back and with a lot of the new signings in, that there was going to be an uplift, and the results haven't uplifted. Some of the performances have for periods, like against Dortmund, West Ham. I was quite positive after the Dortmund game, the way I wrote. And West Ham had that good 20 minutes, which was as good as anything. But I think West Ham felt they played poor in that period as well. And then, just to have nothing, like absolutely nothing. And I know they created a lot in the second half, but that's going to happen against a team that had no confidence, and Chelsea just bringing on attacker after attacker, way better players than what Southampton have. You're going to create chances, but they could have scored, but to have no control, like you're saying, that's part of the problem. And the control part, to be fair, is the manager's job. So, for me, I'm trying to unpick what's going wrong. And, there must be a lot of people to blame, really. The manager deserves some portion of blame. I don't think the whole blame, like a lot of people are saying. I think a lot of people hope that you get rid of the manager and it all improves. But I just think, like, I was always worried about this 32-man squad, and somehow actually the injured players coming back isn't always that helpful, because They're out of form. You've got people like, I don't know, Reece James had a pretty below par first few games, I thought. And then in the second half against Dortmund, he got back somewhat to his best, and then he's having to sit out again. So it's taking him time. Chilwell looked a bit improved, but not at his best. Kovacic was pretty good considering the circumstances. Same for Loftus-Cheek, but they're not game changers. So I just think that that's a problem. Then you've got loads of players sitting out of the squad. That can't be good to get the level of training really high. The morale, I've been told, is really low behind the scenes. Confidence is low, of course. I think that Graham Potter's a nice guy, so you're not hearing the kind of stories where people are having a go at each other in training. You know, we had that a bit with Lampard when he was sacked. There's a lot of that stuff going on. I don't think that's the mood. I think it's just low, depressed, but not that angry. I think some of the players who are playing now are really passionate as well. You're seeing crazy yellow cards like Mount just getting booked, charging around the pitch. Azpilicueta going ballistic at people from the bench. In Dortmund, you know, they had the big brawl at the end of the match. Like, the players do care, but it's just not coming together. And then finishing as well. That's a lot about confidence. The way that Chelsea are finishing is like, you know, it's like me when I was younger. I used to snatch at chances, all that kind of thing, because I didn't have the composure. You know, I didn't have the confidence that I was going to score. But I think that that's what's going on. I was reading a good piece in The Athletic, actually. One of my colleagues wrote it, and you know, they did analysis of the shots, and there is sort of, you know, a lack of precision with it all. There's an element of luck, like good saves. The Bazunu save from Gallagher was excellent, but there's also like just an element of, you know, you're not hitting the corner, you're not quite hitting the shot hard enough. It's all of that, and how do you measure that? It's quite difficult. You're just hoping that something turns, but finishing has been a problem at Chelsea for years. There's a lot of legacy problems still hurting the team. I think that Graham Potter is performing poorly, but I also think that sacking him wouldn't immediately fix the problem. And I think that's a bit the problem, where I think that's a bit of the danger of where the fans have got themselves into a frenzy over Potter, is that they feel like they can turn it around with one simple decision.
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack there. we'll try our best here to get through it. I think, Brandon, I started off with the expected Chelsea thing, which is just like that account saying this is probably the worst half of football in the Potter era, referring to the first half. Spacing on the ball all over the place, watching a bad academy team. I don't think any fan or player can tell you who's doing what. I mean, we've had conversations in our Big Brains chat about that, and it's just tough to discern a strategy right now on what players are supposed to be doing.
Yeah, for sure. You know, a big part of this, really annoyingly, is Southampton, right? Thank you for the commentator's curse, Naz, saying that Southampton went into the match with the worst record on the club's history, losing 9 of the last 10 and only 1 clean sheet in 28 matches. Brilliant. Their manager saying, I didn't have enough time to invent a different system. I identified anyway with the principles from before. If anyone wants to beat us, they'll have to be at their best. They shithoused us, constantly fouled, defended. And part of this is, yes, Chelsea have our problems. But my big thing here is, if you watch this game, Southampton were anti-football. They didn't have to be fair. And when you gift them a free kick, I mean, my gosh, like, it couldn't have gone any better for them. But like, when you look at like a Pero and a Maitland-Niles who get like really good scores in this game, they didn't have to do anything, right? They don't have the expectations, like Naz was saying earlier, of a Reece James, of a Ben Chilwell, of bombing down the flanks, being aggressive in attack. You know, like, no one expects anything from Suleimana, who's 6'7", other than just standing up there. At least, is he the one who's 6'7", the one that just came from Belgium?
Onuachu is the unit. That dude is huge. My goodness. Wow. Hey, he made Badiashile look small at one point. Badiashile's not small. I mean, boy.
The point here being, the expectations are completely different. And if Chelsea were to go out there and play like this, it would be unacceptable, right? And I think that's the hard part too, of not only do we have to, we're in a bad spot just within ourselves, we then have to go and play this team who are like, look, we have literally nothing to lose here. A point on the road is great. Stalling from minute 1, fouling consistently, never ever wanting to get into the game, made it really hard for this Chelsea team with like an Enzo Fernandez and a Kovacic and a Felix who like to have time on the ball. It weren't being allowed that. And to me, the only way to beat a team who likes to foul you is you have to pass quicker. You can't let them get to you. And this team wasn't ready for that today. And again, part of that is because we don't have our passing patterns defined is what it looks like. We don't have that fluidity in transition from defense to offense or offense to attack or defense to attack. I mean, and I think that's where a lot of times we ended up playing into this because we were so disjointed. It allowed Southampton to play like absolute bastards, and it worked. Yeah. And again, you don't give up that free kick from Aspie, and like Koulibaly whacks the guy at midfield, and now we're on a counter chasing back where we're like always chasing it. This is a completely different game. Literally, we made the one mistake you couldn't make with James Ward-Prowse, and it all fell apart.
I would just say too, though, Naz, like, their manager says, I didn't have enough time to invent a different system. He's caretaker, right? He was caretaker this time last year. He's caretaker this time as well. I identified anyway with the principles from before. They have a style, right? It's a shit style. But
it's usually losing.
Yeah, but they have one. I think that's where Chelsea fans could probably be aggrieved to say, like, I don't know what our style is. This many matches in, you would expect an identity from this team. And between the formation changes and the player personnel changes and I think just the overall performance changes week to week. So, I mean, Southampton to Dortmund's about as wide array of performances as you can get. No Chelsea fan knows what is being communicated to these players to do. I think that's the bigger problem.
Yeah, Chelsea don't really have a style. We all know that. It should have happened by now. I think that you're looking at it in Potter's defence. He had the 2 weeks when he joined, and then the Queen died, and there was like a cancellation of fixtures, then an international break, then there was like an unbelievable amount of matches before the World Cup, and then there was a bit of an injury crisis in there. So you're pretty much writing off all that time. Then you come back from the World Cup, still loads of injuries. Breuer gets injured, Fofana and Reece James during the sort of build up to the second part of the season. And then, you're getting all these new signings in. So it's just sort of disrupting it. But at the same time, they did have that 2 week break before the Fulham game. That was a point of the season where I was like, this has to be the point where it turns now. Like, I'll give you a free hit. I basically just gave him a free hit, Graham Potter, until that point, because you expect the training to sort of herald results. And then, again, they've got a week off now until the next game. They're going to have a lot of weeks like that. So there's increasingly less and less excuses. And part of this game, part of the problem was there's no excuses for the result. There's no hiding place at all. You just have to win. There's so much better players. I mean, yes, some of your players might be injured, but you've got so much to work with. You've got so many ingredients. There's got to be one team out of all those players that can go and get a result. Southampton are just really poor, but I think that there's another factor. It's just touching upon what Brandon said. This Chelsea team, every time there's a setback in a match, they just sort of sink. And okay, they did rally in the second half, but not enough. Not enough is what you'd expect from being a goal down. And I just feel like every time they concede first, they're going to lose. They're not good at setbacks. And I've never known a Chelsea team to be under more pressure than this one, because the games are running out. I was talking to Ben Chilwell in Dortmund, and he was saying there's no excuses anymore. It doesn't matter if we're unlucky. It doesn't matter if they get a penalty that's totally dodgy. We've just got to win. And there's no hiding place. They're running out of games. The season's on the verge of ending. I think it's close to ending now. The gap's growing within the Europa League teams now. So you've got to worry.
Contrast that. I watched the Newcastle-Liverpool game right after our match yesterday, right? Newcastle
luckiest Redbirds ever.
Newcastle have about as bad a 25 minutes to start a match as you could ever want. I mean, it was
Nick Pope doing?
Horrific shit show, but they fought the entire rest of that match to get back in it. And honestly, we're unlucky that they didn't at least get one back, if not two.
Yeah.
That compared to what you saw Chelsea do is a completely different thing. They fought back within a framework. They fought back within a context that they were going to go do this. because they knew they could. I don't think Chelsea knows that they can do it right now. I think the confidence is that shot. And yeah, I agree. I totally agree with you. Like the players themselves, the heads drop, man. Like whenever something bad happens, they're looking around at each other going like, what the hell now? Like it's just not the same thing. And I think that's just a mentality thing.
Well, Newcastle have credit to pull from, right? They have good results. They've beaten good teams. Chelsea, we had nothing. We're the drain is, the well is empty, and we're trying to scoop more out of it. Just the last thing on this one, obviously Chelsea cannot score. Naz tweeted Chelsea now have only 23 goals after 23 league games, drawing blanks in 4 of the last 5 games, just 3 goals in 9 matches. Ollie Hopkins, looks like he's with Opta, tweeted Chelsea's last 5 games in all competitions, 73 shots, an XG of 7.9, and only 1 goal. Ouch. He's got to be with Opta. I mean, he tweeted the whole Opta thing, with the word at the end. I mean, that's what they do. So it just shows you that obviously that's the problem. Marcus Rashford outscoring Chelsea 8-4 in the year of 2023 is not great.
I'll also add Sam's big chances missed.
Yes, I asked CFC Central this morning to give me an update on the big chances missed tally. My mistake.
Yeah, it is now 17 of 19 big chances missed. We've scored 3 goals from our last 11.3 XG.
Bloody hell.
That's so unbelievable.
So it's obviously like the problem. Defensively, not conceding a lot, but like I don't think anyone here is going to come up with the solution. Unfortunately, it invites more questions like we saw in the post-match press conference, Naz, of Aubameyang. Would you care to tell us why Aubameyang's not playing? What about Aubameyang? Is there a conspiracy here? Is he going to them? Like it just right now, Potter, right? He can't do anything right. And so anytime there's an angle to like take a shot, it's being taken because again, like he can't say, well, yeah, Aubameyang's not playing, but Fofana had a hat trick. I'm sorry, David Datro Fofana had a hat trick. So like, it's a non-issue. Like everything is an issue right now.
Yeah, you never question a manager's decisions when they're winning, but when they're losing, and this is the same with players, not just fans and media, they're like, why am I not playing? You're not getting results, play me. And Aubameyang has a reason to put that to him, but maybe the writing's just on the wall, so you just sort of leave it at this point. But it's a legitimate question, but I think that a lot of the fans are blaming Potter, of course. I think most fans have turned on him, which is really hard to sort of overcome. That's going to be a huge issue. But I also point at, and this is a broader thing, like there was so much excitement about the transfer window. Like no club enjoys a transfer window more than Chelsea. 600 million spent, world record over 2 transfer windows. But few of the new signings have actually lifted the club in any way. And I include the January signings. And I'm not having a go at any of them because they're great young players. They're going to be great players for Chelsea in the future. But for right now, and I think this is the problem, all the signings we've got this great player for the future. We've got this great player for the future. What about now? We're in crisis now. Why aren't we talking about now? And there's been almost no thought towards the short term. Football, there is a long term, and you have to respect the long-term development and have a great long-term plan. Chelsea have that. I believe in Chelsea's long-term plan. But there's absolutely no care put towards the short term. Like Enzo Fernandez, he needs to adapt. He's only played 20 games in Europe or something like that. Datro Fofana has been playing in Norway. He needs time to adapt. Under Abramovich, he'd be going on loan for 2 seasons, then maybe come back. But no, he's starting for Chelsea in a huge game that puts the team in crisis if they don't win. You've got the same problem with Noni Madueke. Huge step up from the Dutch league. He's not played a huge amount of games. He's not like a 20-year-old like Mount who's played like hundreds of games. So this is another guy who's probably under too much pressure. He played okay, but we need him to score. We need him to be a match winner. We need our wingers to be match winners. João Felix, great player, probably the only one who can make an immediate impact, and he has done actually immediate impact, but he's not a goal scorer. So he's a guy who creates. We've been creating better with Felix in the team, but he scored a goal as well, but he's not scoring clinically week in, week out. He's not a 30-goal a season man. And so there you go. There's the problems. It's quite simple. Chelsea don't have enough goal scorers. The personnel's not right. They've got too many players. How is Graham Potter going to manage this? I do think that Chelsea are way below the level they should be right now, like way below. The manager needs to get them up to a certain level.
Way below.
But their actual level that they can get to, I don't think is that high either. I think that fans expected, after 600 million spent, that the level Chelsea could get to is close to competing for a title. I don't think this squad is anywhere near that. I think that selling players is a huge thing as well. I think it's a mess. I think it's really hard for any manager to do anything with this squad. It's top heavy in certain positions. There's certain positions that are light. I just think it's so much. It's so many problems, and I'm a little bit worried. It should be better than it is. They should be smashing Southampton 3-0 at home. But at the same time, I don't think week in, week out they're going to win. I don't think they can win the Champions League. Honestly, I know that the squad, sometimes they come out acting tough, saying they can, but I think that the actual level they can reach isn't that high either. I think Europa League would be an unbelievable achievement from this position.
We'll have to see, but obviously transitions us nicely into what happens now. So again, last ad break, thanks to the sponsors, and we'll be right back. So, I mean, look, Naz definitely brought us right into it, Nick, of, kind of, well, what happens now? I've been saying this for weeks now, and I don't feel like Potter looks at the same. And again, this is his remit, but like every game is a must win. Like you can't manage minutes, really. You need to get results. And I've been saying this for a couple of weeks now. It just seems like Potter's either too comfortable. It seems like maybe he's too accepting of the level dropping. Like, no, don't worry. We'll just work on this in the training pitch and we'll be fine next. Like, at some point we have to draw a line to say, no. We're below where we need to be. If you don't perform, you're not in the lineup. We love talking about meritocracy under Lampard. Right now, it's all over the place. Who's playing, who's not, who's our starting 11. And we really just need to run that 11 into the ground until he can string 2, 3, 4 results together. And I just mean don't lose for 2, 3, 4 games and get a win. That would be incredible form right now for Chelsea. And we're nowhere close. So again, what happens now? Fans are upset. Media's upset. Everyone's upset. I'm sure the players are upset. And Potter's got a full plate ahead of him.
Yeah, I mean, there's no easy way out of this, right? There's going to have to be some hard decisions made. And I think we have been on this show preaching patience for, everything, all the different contextual pieces as to, why this season is so weird and upside down. But from the minute that Chelsea lost to Leeds and Southampton early in the season, you have to claw those points back. And we simply have underperformed the entire way. There was a nice little stretch there in October. That was fun. The team was playing really well and the vibes were high. And then it basically fell off a fucking cliff. I mean, it's, I have a lot of empathy for Graham Potter. I can't imagine him entering into a more difficult situation as a manager than what he's done here. But I think what's worrying to me now, Naz, is you mentioned this earlier. You had the World Cup to kind of retool, right? Reconfigure, think about your own strategy, right? Not a ton of players around to work with necessarily, but to do some deep dives. Then you had a 2-week break before Fulham. Then because you're not in any of the cup competitions, you have a lot of training pitch time right now. Couple of weeks, a week here. Obviously the Champions League weeks are different because they're playing midweek, but the performances have gotten better in some cases and worse in some cases. And I think I would have expected by now that there would be a clear identity, that there would be clear player personnel decisions outside of injuries, of course. And, yesterday felt like a turning point in a negative way to me. That I think it's going to be really difficult to climb back from, frankly.
Yeah, I can see that. And I can see why a lot of fans have lost faith. I think you guys are more losing faith than lost faith, maybe, perspective right now. But I guess it's just also Chelsea just used to winning. So it's not, you're being told that we've got this long-term plan. It will work eventually, but every defeat is just losing faith in the wider plan as well, isn't it? So, and we're used to as well, managers being a quick fix. But I think that with this one, you're looking at who we can get in this place, and you're thinking Thomas Tuchel's name is probably the most commonly brought up, but there's no way he's coming back. He's fallen out with the owners. So you don't bring back a manager who's not in with the owners. Then Jose Mourinho's name's been brought up a lot, but obviously it's a huge gamble to bring back a manager most people believe isn't at the top level anymore. And then after that, you're either going caretaker or maybe Pochettino. You could just about convince him, but Chelsea becomes less and less attractive as well. And you also have to start from square one again as well, because you've had a January transfer window for one manager, you've had a summer window for Tuchel, and then you can have another summer for another manager. So it's almost like you're pushing your project way back. But again, this season as well, like it's how many blows can you take? So is Potter underperforming so badly that you have to get rid of him and just get the new manager bounce, or are you just writing off this season? Does it matter if Chelsea finish 11th or 9th? Does that matter anymore? So these are a lot of the big questions I think that we're all thinking about. And I think the owners really are trying to commit to this long-term plan. And that's what's really hard, is that you're not seeing results, you're not seeing progress, you're not seeing anything improve, particularly. I mean, yeah, you improve for a bit and then you go 2 steps back again. I think that for the future, if Chelsea decide to stick with Potter, they really need to sort of show an identity for the fans to get back on side. I think that they need a dirty, nitty-gritty win. I mean, the next game is Spurs, so you win there and you've got a lot of goodwill for a bit more time, don't you? But if you draw there, it's probably okay. If you're performing well and draw, then it might be okay. But a loss there as well, like to a rival, it's going to be painful. So I don't know. It feels mutinous. It feels hard. I really have a lot of sympathy for Potter. I don't think he's completely lost the squad, but I think the squad have lost their way. And yeah, I mean, he just needs to find 11 players who can do something, and that's it really. I mean, Felix looks like he can. Enzo's been pretty good. Kovacic could be good in there. But yeah, I mean, he might need to make some hard decisions really. You've got 1 game a week now, and what I was expecting from Potter wasn't this squad rotation. I was a bit confused by that. I'm a bit confused if he's been a bit of a yes man as well, playing all the new signings as soon as they were available. Like, is that the wisest decision? Shouldn't you ease them in? You've got loads of other players as well. So yeah, it's tricky. I think that the players who are on the fringes as well, bringing them back in now, they might be a bit resentful because they might be seeing that they're forced out, I'm surprised Hakim Ziyech has been passable, because the way he was treated on deadline day was quite bad, but now Chelsea are playing him anyway. So, yeah, I mean, I just feel like it's a mess. I have a lot of sympathy for him. I never back or don't back a manager. I just sort of try to report the situation as best I can, give you guys the tools to make your own mind up. But Potter clearly doesn't know his best lineup. 61 changes before the weekend, but for his 16 games in charge, that's an insane amount of changes. It's almost like new team every match. So find a lineup, get a dirty win at all costs, try and stop losing. But yeah, I mean, Bowley and all those lot, the owners, they're having to face the fans now. And are they going to keep their nerve and back a manager, or are they going to put themselves out of the firing line? Because if this goes on, it's not only Graham Potter that's going to be dragged into the hate sort of negative, news cycle, but I think the owners are going to start getting hit as well by media, by fans. There's a lot of anger, there's a lot of will. People want me to write absolute hit piece on Potter, but if this goes on, it might sort of spread towards the owners as well. So we'll see.
Don't worry, YouTube's done the hit pieces already, so that's covered for you. I don't think the owners are worried about it personally, but again, we don't know. I think they're very desperate to not be the same, and they've had so much success at LA doing the long-term approach that I think that they're going to stick with it. Nick, all right, here's the game for you. Naz says we need a dirty win. Where's it coming? Tottenham, Leeds, Dortmund at home, Leicester away, Everton at home. Those are the next 5 matches. Where's the dirty win coming? Dirty win, dirty Leeds. He wins right when we bring 21 Americans plus ourselves to the bridge to lift the atmosphere. We are here to help.
The question is, can we score a goal? I mean, like, you can't win without a goal.
Apparently we can score 1 and 5 according to the Opta stat earlier.
I mean, yeah, so maybe it's the Leeds game where we get the 1-0. I really don't know. I mean, they're pretty bad right now, but so are Southampton. So, I mean, it's like, it's tough. It's tough after yesterday to see what happens. Like, I think going to Tottenham next week could either be a turning point in a positive way or a turning point in a negative way. Like, I don't really see a middle ground, unfortunately, there. And so, if you go win, yeah, that's some deodorant for what's going on. If you get pummeled, hey, that's a whole different scenario, And I think the form after New Year's or after Christmas, I should say, it's just been not. I mean, 2-15 speaks for itself.
Yeah, it's so to me, it's like if you win, you get maybe like 2 points of positive emotion. If you lose 5 points, right? Like it's going to take a few results to really dig out of. And this is like where you're at in this situation. So anyways, lastly, we did want to touch on Aspie. It sounds like he's doing a lot better. So Naz, you were there, scary times. You can just quick talk us through it. And it sounds like he's doing okay. Sounds like today he's stable in talking, and it was a concussion.
Yeah, it was a concussion. Got kicked in the head, of course, by Sekou Mara. Accident. There was a really long stoppage. I think it was 9 minutes or 8 or 9 minutes at Stamford Bridge. Then he went to hospital. Great work by the sort of medical staff. They were very careful. Southampton medical staff were helping him as well. He was talking to his wife straight after the match, pretty much on the phone, saying he's all right, making her feel better, which is always the first thing you do, right? If you get hurt, you got to call the wife or the family. So, and then it's kind of filtered through today that he's still in hospital, but he expects to be out tomorrow. He's been telling all his friends he's okay. He's got to look after himself because when you've had concussion, it might miss the next game. I think that's the protocol. But there's nothing broken. There's no long-term damage. It's just about precaution, easing your way back in. It was a heavy blow. So yeah, you've got to be careful. Take every precaution. If you take a second blow with concussion, it could be quite bad, so soon after the first. So it's just about waiting until you're fully recovered and then going back into it. So Aspie does everything the right way. He's a top pro. He barely misses a game, so he'd probably be devastated to miss the Spurs game, but he'll be back soon.
Yeah, I mean, this was very, very scary. I mean, I guess a question about the refereeing on this one. Do you think that this should have been a red card for violent conduct, Naz, or was this simply like incidental contact? When I first watched it, my initial take was Mara didn't know he was there and had every right to go for the ball, but I've watched some replays, and I don't know. I'm maybe in the orange territory right now in my own head. I
want to stack the deck real quick. Aspie has posted on social media that he's good, and he thanks everyone for the support. So that is right now just happened. And then also about this, what I would say, Naz, is this as an elite footballer yourself, that anytime you leave your feet, you lose all control, and you've kind of taken that risk. What do you think?
I think that looking at Mara's reaction, I was watching it recently, and he looked upset himself because he just kicked a guy in the head completely by accident. So I have a lot of sympathy for him. I don't know. It could be dangerous play. There is a red card. You're allowed to give a red for that. You're allowed to give a red for dangerous play. But I also don't think. I think that footballers, when they think about each other, I don't think Aspie will be angry at Mara. I'm sure Mara apologised. Southampton were really. Willie Caballero's been keeping the guys in touch about Aspie because they're really upset. I think footballers take the field and they can hurt themselves. That can happen. And everyone admires the way Aspie defended that in the Southampton dressing room. I think that Chelsea were right to ask for a red card. It didn't come. Could have been, maybe not. But I don't think anyone's that upset. I don't think anyone thinks so. Chelsea don't think they needed the red card to get the result. They should have got the result anyway. So I mean, I'm not too fussed about either way. I think, players put themselves in danger being on that pitch, and that's why I have a lot of respect for them. Even when Chelsea doing bad, and it did put into perspective a bit. Like, look, these guys are still putting their body on the line. They're trying their best. They might be falling short right now, but respect to them. They're trying. They want to win. They're doing everything they can. Look at Aspie putting his head in the way of that. Unbelievable. So big respect to Aspie. Everyone handled it brilliantly. The two teams, there's not really any animosity about it, and we move on. We're getting better, and we're getting back on the pitch.
Yeah. And again, to those fans, taking shots at Enzo and the other players, I think Felix passing the ball as Aspie is getting treatment. Yeah, they're staying loose, staying warm. Like, that doesn't mean they don't like Aspie. That is how fractious Chelsea Twitter is right now, that like anything is like picked apart and then blown up. And we've all seen this many times, Nick. We've been around the rotating managerial merry-go-round and when things are bad, but like Chelsea Twitter is the worst in these moments. And that's when you really have to like stick to your crew and just the people you trust and follow, because you can very quickly get taken off in like this roller coaster of emotion of, oh my gosh, you're right, there's a conspiracy and this person hates this person, that's why. And you're like, just stop.
I learned my lesson from earlier this season. I stopped tweeting at halftime, basically. There was nothing to be gained yesterday. I mean, it was really, really bad. And like, the other thing, like, not only is it poisonous, it's also boring. Like, if you go through the timeline, every single take is the same take or some version of the same take, and it's all just to like pile on. And like, I'm not downplaying that. If that's how you want to be in your feelings, go for it. I've been there multiple times myself, so I definitely know how that works. But yeah, I think in moments like that, I'm probably just going to sit out for a bit.
Again, just other results from the weekend as we wrap up here. Obviously, we didn't do a day in the match because we lost. Arsenal squeaking out the result against Villa, having to come back. Other than that, City drawing Forest was the big slip because United have won. And so with Arsenal and United winning, that kind of keeps the race at the top pretty tight. So Arsenal in first on 54, City second on 52, United third 49, Newcastle fourth 41. If Tottenham do win today, they could advance into top four, which is essentially our worst nightmares at this point as Chelsea fans. Look, we're in 10th on 31 points, super bleak right now. CFC stands for Charity FC because Southampton went from 15 points to 18 points, which puts them actually now one win away from being outside of the relegation zone, which is absolutely amazing. The fact that, Nick, you had to even put in a message group about 40 points being a target for Chelsea just shows where the situation is right now. You're just like, holy shit. It's just, I think the overall season is just a bit of a goofy mirrors, house. And every time you look, you see something different. You have no idea what's happening. But this just overall is not the place that you expected, I think, anything to be right now, Nick.
Yeah, I mean, a little tongue in cheek there, but yeah, I mean, it's hard to win matches if you don't score. I mean, like, I don't know how else to say it. You have 4 goals this calendar year, and it's just not good enough. So I mean, too much attacking talent in this team to have such little production, I think is my final word here. And my hope is, whether it's, this mentality coach that's been hired or a completely upended tactical plan or something, curse burning a la Ted Lasso situation, something has to change ahead of Spurs. And that, I mean, the team has a week right now to get ready for this. So there's a lot of time to make all sorts of inroads.
Yeah, I think my final comment would be, Potter's backed. Everyone wants me to give them the news that they want to hear. So if you Potter out, then you want me to say he's on the way out, but he's backed until he's not backed. It's a bit like Tuchel. It was the press release that came out that ruined my day on September the 4th or whenever it was that it came out. So I think that with this one, it's absolutely every single time Chelsea have a bad result, it's like, is he going? But he's backed until he's not, and that's kind of how it's running. And I think that he has that power behind the scenes, and people feel like he's being backed and all this. But yeah, fans are trying to have their voice heard and trying to get him out. So we'll see if that has an impact. And I've never quite seen it quite this bad for Chelsea. So it's just win at all costs at this stage. I can't see where the win's coming from, but within that squad, there is quality, there is wins, and it can happen. So one win, I think that I was speaking to one of my sources recently, and he just said, one win might not be enough. I think we need 2 or 3 to start building, because confidence is so low right now. And I'm sure Potter would echo those thoughts as well. It's just a really tricky time for Chelsea, but get through it. There'll be better times, I'm sure. For me, I just want Conference League or Europa League minimum, because I do enjoy my European trips, even though I got my laptop smashed up in Dortmund. So I'm hoping we have that for next season. But if not, Chelsea will have a lot of midweeks to get ready for matches. And hey, it took Liverpool and Arsenal a while when they were rebuilding, and Chelsea are. When you speak to people behind the scenes, Chelsea are rebuilding now, and it took Arteta a long time. He finished 8th, he finished 5th. Klopp finished 8th, 4th, 2nd, and then won the league. So I think that Chelsea are on a bit of a long road now, and that's what the expectation should be. Can we get on that road and start progressing, start seeing something that resembles a team from now on?
All right, well, here we go. Just a short little road until we're there, Naz, which we're excited about. So we'll see if some rowdy Americans can help jazz it up, just to change the pace. We're going to be in your neck of woods, taking it in. We expect a win away at Spurs, and then we'll bring it back to double down the Leeds in Dortmund, and we'll get out of there just in time to really help turn the corner. But man, we appreciate you obviously bringing the non-Chelsea view, which we need sometimes. It is too easy to get sucked in to all of the blue tinted glasses and the blue voices. So thanks, man. We appreciate you. Obviously, you do an amazing job. We'll put links in the description for everyone to follow you. Naz's articles are top, and he's even a better person, which we appreciate. And we'll have beer soon, sir.
Yeah, I can't wait. Yeah, I've always said Chelsea need more Americans, and we're going to get it.
AKA wherever they are on summer tour, Naz says, yeah, more of these fans. We love it. All right, Naz. Well, thanks as always, Nick. Appreciate you. We'll be back with more content this week. As always, look, it's okay to not feel great, but we're here to talk about it. Join our Discord. It'll be great. So until next time, Chelsea fans, you know what to do. Keep the blue flag flying high.